Continuing with unsaturated hydrocarbons, now we are going to talk about alkynes. Alkynes specifically are going to be those molecules that contain one or more carbon-carbon triple bonds. And as we observed before, alkanes ended in ane, alkenes ended in ene, and now alkynes end in ine. Alkynes, similar to alkenes, have been isolated from natural resources. Marine sponges and corals actually have alkenes in their structures. Let's now learn how to name alkynes. When we are naming alkynes, we are going to find the longest continuous chain of carbon atoms that contains the triple bond. We are going to specifically number that longest parent chain, starting from the end that it is closest to the triple bond. And then we are going to specifically uh, put the location of the first carbon in the triple bond, followed by the root, which is the number of carbons in the longest parent chain. And then the ending is going to be "-ine" for our functional group. Prefix will be added only if we have substituents in our molecules. Let's look specifically at the two examples that we have in the bottom. Looking at this condensed structure, we can observe that the longest continuous chain of carbon atoms can be selected as this one or this one. Any of the two will give you the same name. So when it comes to this, if I select this one, I have to number it to the end closest to the triple bond. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. The name for the root and the ending is going to be bute 4,4-ine ending because it is an alkyne. The location of the first carbon in that triple bond is a 1. So 1-butene is representing that parent chain. And remember that the parent chain is going to be the longest continuous chain of carbon atoms. On position 3, we have a substituent, which is a methyl group. So the name of this alkyne is 3-methyl-1-butene. Let's look at the next example. In this example, we have the longest carbon chain as specifically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let me number the carbons. Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But if we number this alkyne in the opposite direction, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the triple bond is actually in between the same numbers. Regardless of which direction, you see that specifically this alkyne is going to be 4-octane. Only when you have equal distance alkynes, then you will select the numbering that is closest to the substituent. Only when you have equal distance, just like we saw in the example for alkenes have the same situation, okay? So this means that the blue numbering is not correct. The correct one is the red one. So I'm just going to erase the blue numbering. And this means that in position 3, I have a bromine, which is called a bromo group. Similar to what we've seen before, the punctuation when it comes to naming between numbers and letters, we always have a hyphen. So the correct name for this alkyne is 3-bromo-4-octine. Alkynes do not have cis and trans isomerism. So even though you may be tempted to say like, well, is this cis and trans? Remember that no such thing exists in alkynes. Now we're going to learn about the last type of unsaturated hydrocarbon, in other words, aromatic compounds. This functional group originally derived their name from the fragrances of oils from plants. And it seemed that they had similar chemical properties. However, chemists learned that many compounds belonging to this class were not fragrant at all. So understand that the whole idea of things being fragrant, meaning that they have a smell, doesn't necessarily mean that they are going to be classified as an aromatic compound. The more important evidence in their structure that makes them belong to aromatic compounds is the presence of a benzene ring. We learned before that aromatic compounds are going to have a benzene ring, meaning a hexagon of alternating double bonds and single bonds, as you can see in the molecule of vanillin on the right side of the slide. Aromatic compounds are nonpolar. So this tells you that they mostly are insoluble in water. But we kind of know this already because all hydrocarbons have this characteristic. To give you examples of things that have benzene rings, let's first discuss what is this benzene ring motif that is present in aromatic compounds. In 1865, Kekulé suggested that the benzene ring molecule must be represented as a ring arrangement of carbon atoms with alternating double bonds and single bonds, meaning we could write benzene rings in this manner or in this manner. Later, he suggested that these double bonds will be alternating their positions within the ring system. So when we look at what are the structures for benzene that Kekulé proposed, then we see that this can be written for benzene or this can be written for benzene. The last illustration that you see here in the slide is an incorporation of the idea that since these double bonds are going to rotate within the ring system, you can just not put the lines and make them alternate. You just put a circle in the middle. So understand that each one of these molecules are equivalent. When it comes to naming aromatic compounds, understand that some of them are going to have names that are systematic based on the IUPAC system, but other ones are going to have accepted common names for describing them. So when we look specifically at some common aromatic compounds and their name, we can observe that based on our knowledge of naming molecules, the following aromatic compound, it has a benzene ring, which is going to be our parent chain. It has an ethyl group. So having one substituent in a benzene ring tells us that we're going to write the name of the substituent followed by the word benzene. So this is ethyl benzene. We learned earlier in the chapter that an NO2 group is a nitro group. Since it's attached to benzene, this is nitrobenzene. Bromine is known as a bromo group, so this is bromobenzene. Chlorine attached to a benzene group makes this chlorobenzene. So understand that based on the IUPAC rules, whenever you have a benzene ring, then the benzene ring is going to be your parent chain. Now, according to those rules, then the following molecule, the one that we have right here, will be named methyl. Let me just move it to the side. Benzene. But the accepted common name for it is toluene. The next one that we have, an OH group, that is known as a hydroxy group. So hydroxybenzene also has a common name. Hydroxybenzene is known as phenol. Next, we have an amino group connected to a benzene, so we can write it as aminobenzene. The common name for aminobenzene is aniline. And lastly, if we have a carboxylic acid next to benzene, that is known as benzoic acid. Aromatic compounds are very important in biology. And later in the semester, we're going to see how we can have benzene rings in amino acids like phenylalanine. We can have benzene rings in vitamins like in riboflavin, which is vitamin B2. We can have a benzene ring. But the only other structure that I want you to remember how to name and draw is when you have a benzene ring connected to a CH, double bonded to a CH2, that is known as styrene. Polystyrene is a polymer of this molecule and is actually utilized to make different plastic products.